And we're live. Well, we're not live. We're recording.
We're recording.
Is that a form of being live?
No, we're on.
Yeah, there you go. We're on. That'll be our catchphrase. We're on. Oh, all right. A little bit of a hiatus with the holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yep, I hope everybody had a good Christmas and New Year's. Um this was a weird holiday season for me for some reason. It
Weird
just
how.
it never felt like the holidays. Until I was in West Virginia, right? Like,
You okay?
yeah, no, it was just like I don't know if it was because we were so it. Courtney and I discussed this. It feels more like the holidays when we go to West Virginia for Thanksgiving and stay here for Christmas for some reason.
Because you already went.
I think because we go and like we do Thanksgiving and then we're here and we end up doing more Christmas style stuff with our friends
Mhm.
versus when the years that we go, we stay here for Thanksgiving. It's like everybody just is with family for Thanksgiving, and then we just go and we're with her family for Christmas. Um, that's my theory. I don't really know though. I don't know. It also doesn't help because we're in Texas. Like you probably you probably can't relate to this as much as I can, but like growing up, it got cold. The leaves changed colors. We got snow. You could feel the like
Sorry, weren't
wind.
you born in Texas and lived in Texas the whole time?
No, I'm from New Mexico.
Fair enough.
You know this.
Fair enough.
And I'm from the northern part of New Mexico, like 45 minutes below Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like we would get snow and like all of that in the holidays, and like at Halloween, like the leaves would be orange, and here it's just like green and then gray, and then everything dies, and then it's gray, and then spring comes and everything's green again.
Yeah.
That's it. Anyways, all right. So we are in the new year. I think everybody in the CrossFit space is now just kind of waking up and smelling the roses that the open and quarters are rapidly approaching, I would say.
Yeah, I would say less rapidly than typical, but
Fair. Fair. There I mean quarters for individuals is a good ways away still.
mhm.
And the teams, but and then obviously there's been changes to the open that maybe have certain people feeling a certain kind of way. Um I feel like that's something we're going to notice at the affiliate over the next couple weeks is people are going to be like the open
Hmm.
uh, the open's coming. So,
Yeah, I feel like with the news cycle, people have been made aware that the open is coming.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, son.
Hmm.
Um, this isn't a cycle podcast, and I know I say this all the time, but I love this time of year.
That yeah, you did say that before.
I just, I mean, every podcast we do on the cycles, I'm like, oh my god, I love this cycle because I
Mhm.
really do love like thematically what we do in each of them. But I love, I think I like quarters and open prep so much because I'm finally kind of giving, we're giving the athletes their candy,
Mhm.
and they're in a place where they can finally enjoy it. Right? They've had their veggies.
That is true.
So, all right. So we're gonna discuss a little bit today what we kind of would recommend for people in order to help them prepare and do well and reach their goals for the open and quarterfinals. Not going to be as long of a podcast as we typically do. Full transparency for the people out there. Mahmoud and I are just busy bees, so we only have so much time today. But I wanted you to kick it off. We have not discussed this any. I text you this topic last night at like 10 p.m.
Yep.
So we have not really discussed this any uh, between the two of us for the podcast. Obviously, we've talked about this before, but let's start with the open. It's
Mhm.
first. Um, what are some things that you would really recommend for people to work on and spend their time on to crush the open this year? Whether their goal is to just improve from last year or if their goal is to, get into the top now 25% and move on to in quarterfinals.
So I'm, in my opinion, I'm going to talk a little bit generally here because again, one, the 25% is pretty broad. Two, I'm just going to talk from perspective of how should I approach my training versus how should I train, I guess, like, or what is my training supposed to be looking like. So
Sure.
this is the cycle where we say that as programmers, but I think it should be more also athletes. The glove comes off. You have
Gloves.
gloves come off.
The glove is weird. One
Just
glove is
one
weird.
glove. One
That's
like
that's weird.
okay. Um, but what I'm trying to say by that is I wanna think about okay, I am going to now start pushing outside of my limits. If I know, for example, if I have a conditioning piece and I am comfortable with keeping a 155 pace on the row or in that piece, I want to try and go for 152 and see what happens. I want to go for 150 and see what happens. At this point, this is experiment a lot. Experiment a lot now because right now you're in that area where you're going to have to crush some mental barriers
Hmm.
to prepare for some room for growth going into the open.
Hmm.
Like at
Yeah,
this point, the fitness has almost been done.
yeah, there's time to move the needle, but if we compare this to a conversation that was being had in July,
Right.
there's a whole lot less time.
So I guess like there's more psychological bang for your buck now compared to physical.
Yeah, you definitely need to be ready and mentally prepared to know what it feels like when one of those open workouts punch you in the face.
Which will lead me to like right now, unless you are have a significant weakness when it comes to lifting,
Mhm.
you should be prioritizing very uncomfortable conditioning style workouts, whether it's very very high turnover intervals or you're looking at open workout repeats or long AMRAPs or like short AMRAP. Like you want to get those different styles of conditioning at a very uncomfortable stimulus, and you want to try and get comfortable with that over the next, I don't know, 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
6-ish, yeah,
Yeah,
6, 7-ish. No, I agree. I think the other side of, pushing those metcons for people who are looking, to break into that top 25% is really being able to understand your pacing. And you got to break some eggs to make an omelet, right?
exactly.
You got to know, oh, that was too fast, or
Mhm.
oh, I had a little bit more in the tank there. And uh, if you spend time over the next 6 or 7 weeks figuring that out, you'll be able to pace open workouts appropriately for where your fitness is and get a better result from that. And I think that is maybe something we might see as one of the biggest separators for who can get into the top 25% is, are they just aware enough to pace appropriately?
Yeah, and like again, like make mistakes now, fail in pacing now, so that you know your paces.
How many times a week do you or I or another one of our coaches tell athletes there's no such thing as failure in training?
Yeah. How many times did we discuss workouts and like we are going to see how long you last. We're not
Yep.
expecting you to finish the full workout here,
Yep.
right?
There's and I think that's, to be fair, one of the beautiful things about CrossFit is, unlike other sports, if you're a receiver and you're doing route running at practice and you're just fucking up your routes, that is a failure. Like, you are screwing up practice, right? And that's part of getting better in that sport as well. But in CrossFit, if you full send a workout on accident or you miss pace, you still got fitter. So,
Right,
like, at least there's that. And you learned, right?
right.
Did you maybe get the same amount of output as you would have if you'd have paced appropriately? No. But there is a certain amount of physiological adaptation that you will get from just ending up sitting at your red line threshold and figuring it out for the next 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what you want to do all year,
Right.
but I mean, you still got fitter,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Uh, no, I think that's a really good point. Something that we had talked about just momentarily before we started recording is skills. So I think for people who are looking to get into the top 25%, I mean, we knew skills were, when the open or going to quarters was 10%, we knew skills were important. And it was a little more your skill capacity, right? Can you get a certain number of muscle ups? Can you get a certain number of this? Can you get a certain number of that? I think that's almost going to regress to, can you just do
A muscle up.
two or three of these skills potentially to get into the top 25%?
I agree. And I'll also say like there's a fine line, and like again, if you are trying to get in that top 10, 25, top 10, people are gonna hear skills and you're like, okay, I'm never gonna scale my bar muscle up again in a Metcon. So there's a line in that. As we said, like the best way to get fitter right now and ready for the open is to push that intensity curve.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, if you're trying to work on your skills at the same time and you maybe don't have the skill or you're struggling with a skill, then still scale that skill in the Metcon. The
Mm-hmm.
Metcon is not this time of the year is either for you to work on capacity in a Metcon or to just work on intensity in Metcons.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't work on skills, but I would just take that skill out and do it as a third piece of the day or as a second, whatever, outside of class. Work on your pull-ups, work on your muscle up, work on your crossovers, work on your double unders,
Yep.
EMOM it, whatever you want to do it, just take away the intensity from it and get the skill done or go for progressions of the skill to make sure that I'm improving. And I will promise you, you have 7 weeks, get one skill in. 7 weeks is enough for you to learn a skill if you do it consistently and properly.
Sorry, I'm hearing weird noises and I'm trying to figure out what my dog's doing.
Could be my dog, because my dog is
No,
playing around.
no, it's definitely my dog. Anyways, uh, no, you're 100% correct. I think, and this is something we, talk with athletes all the time about in our one-on-one coaching. If you're trying to develop a skill, we're going to develop that skill in a kind of fixed setting. And then we're going to use the Metcon to get our intensity or the conditioning to get our intensity. Right.
Hmm.
And with the open coming, we know there's a premium on fitness, right? We know even in quarterfinals, there's a premium on fitness. So scaling that skill a little bit or lowering the volume of that skill in a Metcon setting, and then spending the extra time, because yes, it's going to take extra time to develop that skill outside of that, is probably the best way to go for people.
Yep.
Yep. Um, I think, we could talk for quite a while on specific things. But as a general, I thought we could maybe give people not necessarily our predictions, but what are some tried and true things that we just, more often than not are going to show up in the open? Let's think of three. You think of three, and I'll think of three because I've got a couple off the top of my head already.
You said movement, like movements,
Yep.
or
Like what are just movements we know more likely than not historically? Now, granted, the open's only 3 workouts now,
right?
right? Or maybe we get a 2-parter. But
Mhm.
what do we like? What are those movements that when you look at like, if you have an athlete that you're like, all right, we've got to get ready for the open. What do I need to prepare them for in terms of really specific movements?
I'm gonna say thrusters or wall balls
Yep.
or front squats.
Yep.
Could be any of that. Um, I'm gonna say out of all the gymnastics, I want to say the most consistent 2 movements have been chest to bar and toes to bar.
Correct.
So if I'm preparing for gymnastics, those would be my first to go to. If I can expand to include bar muscle ups, that would be great. But
Sure.
um, typically, I think for the past couple times, they've brought it as a more of a skill ladder. Like
Right.
start somewhere and get further.
I mean, even the first open workout last year, you had the row, then you had toes to
toes to
bar.
bar, and then ring muscle.
Then you had the muscle ups later on. Right.
Um, and then I would say probably dumbbell snatch.
Sure. Dumbbell snatch or power snatches, I think, are a very common movement. I think if we went back and pulled the historical data, um, then yeah, power snatches at 95-65 are very common, or some sort of a power snatch. We've had, ascending ladders of power snatches and things like that.
I think we had even once it was 75-55 with double
Yeah, it
under.
was. Well, there was also the 75-55 and bar muscle ups.
Was that 17?
2016, 17, one of those two, and that was most atrocious forearm pump ever. Hurt so bad. That was a great workout. It was low reps. It was like 7 snatches and 3 bar muscle ups.
Oh, that was 16.
Yeah, for like 7 or 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember I was not very aware of the misery of CrossFit still, and I was like, I'm gonna crush this. And then like 3 minutes into the workout, I was like, I can't feel my hands.
I was struggling with bar muscle ups then. I did not get too far.
I wasn't great at them either. I thought I was, but I was not. I was not. And then I watched Jordan Cook do the workout, and I was like, I suck.
That's what it's supposed to look like.
That's what it's supposed to look like. I get it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So I will add to that, and I will say box jump overs, double unders, and some sort of obviously burpee variation. We know those are very common things. I think if we look at more recent years, we could say wall walks.
Step ups.
As much as I absolutely fucking hate wall walks. We could also probably say
maybe handstand push-ups.
I don't. We could pull the data and look at that stuff, but I feel like handstand push-ups. I mean, they're there, but they haven't been as frequent as previous years since quarterfinals got introduced. Like prior, like 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2015, it was like there's gonna be handstand push-ups in the open. And now it's like I'm not.
I think 2020 still had it. 2021, I don't remember having it. I think it was in quarterfinal, but it was wall walk was introduced, so I think that replaced it.
Correct.
But I think 2020, I don't remember 2022 now. Deadlifts, burpees.
No, there was no handstand push-ups.
Yeah, 2023 had some, but 2022, 2021 did not.
Yeah, so handstand push-ups and their variations. Obviously, we've seen strict come out in the open last year. Finally, I think strict handstand push-ups are much better to do than kipping, personally. On the barbell end, so I mean, we kind of talked about the fitness. If we want to talk about like pure aerobic, monostructural cyclical stuff, rowing and shuttle runs. Those are so far their only 2 options. I think we're far out from getting a bike or ski or anything like that still. So I would expect a rower.
Not this year.
For the love of God, I really hope there's no shuttle runs. I feel like they've just beat those to death at this point. But speaking of shuttle runs, I'm about to make people shuttle run a bunch. But anyways, so weightlifting. What obviously people can't. I mean, you can get stronger in 16 weeks, but it's going to be marginal compared to what you could have done in months. But I mean, I think people need to be ready for complexes and, the traditional ascending weight or maxes that we've seen. I feel like lifting.
What's your best way of getting stronger right now in the remaining time?
8 weeks.
Ish.
Drive up your back squat. Or even if you're not driving, even if you're not like, drive like back squat heavy weights. It's just going to make you stronger it's going to make your whole body stronger. It's going to get your central really fired up. So like if you want to, 8 weeks is not a ton of time. If you want to feel stronger in the open, squat heavy. And that's about the best advice I would give
I
somebody for 8 weeks.
I agree, and I would also supplement that. So my answer is squat heavy or lift heavy, like CNS heavy,
Yeah.
once a week. And I
Yep.
will go move moderate to heavy barbells for reps.
100%.
As in like barbell conditioning basically, but
Yep.
like
100%.
not in metcons, like move your 70%, 80% full reps consistently. Well, at least like one snatch, one clean and jerk a week.
Yeah, dude. I mean, a really simple EMOM or 9-7-5-3-1 ascending load, clean and
Yeah,
jerk snatch, a couplet. Yeah, those kind of things I would say would be very good to do.
yeah,
And you'll just your 1 RMs probably will not move a significant amount in 8 weeks, but you will just feel stronger.
right. The confidence level will just go
Yeah.
high, especially if
Yep.
you're able to get to that like touch and go my 75%, touch and go my 80% for two or something like that.
Right.
You'll feel way more confident and you'll feel that snappy,
Yep.
strong drive from the ground. So I
Yep.
agree.
And then I would say deadlift every 10 days or 10 to 14 days, depending on how strong your deadlift is.
Hmm.
But if you're worried about getting stronger for the open, your deadlift's probably not that strong. So, um, I mean, I wouldn't even say my
I
deadlift is
just raised my
strong.
hand.
I wouldn't even say my deadlift is super strong right now. So, um, okay, so let's move on to quarterfinals. There's a lot more to unpack here with quarterfinals, but we'll try to move through this relatively quickly as well. So quarterfinals, we've got 25% going in. We've got the top 40 coming out for individuals. We've got the top 30 coming out for teams in each region. We have a longer time window. We don't have any idea on the number of workouts yet. I'm estimating still 5 personally. Just from what Bosman and them have talked about a little bit on why they added more time. So, what would what is kind of top of mind for you? I know we talked a little bit about quarterfinals prep as we've moved into this cycle, but what are you kind of thinking about in terms of the things we need to prepare for to set our athletes up for success in quarterfinals, whether that is an athlete who they know they're not, in striking range of the top 40, or, if you have an athlete who is in striking range or is looking to stay in the top 40.
So this is going to be hard to generalize as much as the open,
Yeah,
not because of those two, but more because of the people who are trying to just get to quarterfinals.
sure.
So if you're just trying to make it into the 25%, or you have not made it to quarterfinals before, the open matters a lot.
Hmm.
If you have consistently made quarterfinals, and whether or not you're looking to get to semifinals, you're gonna have to train through the open.
Oh, yeah. Especially now.
Right. So that's what I'm like. That's the difference there. Like, if quarterfinals is the target, if you're trying to get there, if you haven't made it there, or if you haven't consistently made it there, the open is not a train through. The open is where you're gonna have to put everything on the table
Hmm.
and actually take it very seriously. If you are not, if you've been there multiple times, if you're either trying to make it to semifinals, or you know that you're still probably going to make it within the top 15%, right? You're confident in that,
Yeah.
then I would just train the open as part of your training cycle until the quarterfinal becomes,
Right.
right? So that's the first advice I would say. Don't over focus on the open if it doesn't matter.
Yep.
In other words, don't redo workouts if it doesn't matter.
Oh,
As in, put your ego aside because it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that.
So for athletes who know they are going to be in quarterfinals, you still have a chance to get stronger.
Yeah, individual quarterfinals. We got, I mean, if we don't
About
count
three
this
months.
week, yeah, if we don't count this week, we have like 15 weeks.
Yeah. So get
So
stronger.
yeah,
You will need it because again, it's also very hard for us to predict what is going to be the format with 25%. What's
yep,
going to be the focus of the test and all that. But based on last year's, if you're not strong enough, it doesn't matter that you got there.
I don't know any way to explain this to people more than to look back at quarterfinals for the last 2 years. And you could include the Open in this as well, but Bosman is much more interested in you moving a difficult weight for repetitions and speed than he is a 1 RM strength lift. Practice moving heavy weights multiple times, almost like what you already mentioned for the open level athlete, but that almost in my eyes has a premium for
Yeah.
quarterfinals level athletes. You have to be strong enough to lift the weight.
Right. So I
So
guess that
strength,
was, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
but if you are strong enough to lift the weight, getting in some kind of battery work and, barbell conditioning at those heavier weights will be helpful. And you do have time to move the needle a little bit on that in the next 15 weeks.
Right. Also, I'm gonna just re-emphasize that you have to be, as Tristan said, strong enough to move the weight. It is humbling to make it to quarterfinals and still not be able to do a full metcon because
Yeah.
you're not strong enough to lift that bar.
And I mean, I think that's something we're going to see a lot of.
Again, it depends on the test, but again, if it's a pattern from last year, 100%.
Well, and they have to in some way, shape, or form separate, right?
Right.
So especially now that they've cut the field going to semis.
Right.
So
So one, if you're not strong enough, or I mean, you know what? Get stronger no matter what. Two,
I think we could put a pin in that and really well by just saying like you should be continuing to do strength progressions all year.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, there's a few exceptions, but not really because you still need to be comfortable doing the movements at those loads.
Hmm.
Um, I coach a couple athletes who are more than strong enough for the level of competition that the open and quarterfinals provides, but we're still lifting weights. It's just not aggressive
Right. Like there's also the fact that the whole field is getting stronger. So
every year.
just because you're strong today doesn't guarantee that you're going to be strong next year,
Yep.
unless you continue, as you said. Um, Secondly, skill capacity. There's no skill that is too hard. That no skill should be something that you go in there and like, oh, I'm gonna try and again, if you're trying to do well in quarterfinals, I'm gonna try and do singles on muscle ups, or I'm gonna try and we're gonna have to ramp this up.
Yeah.
So my opinion depends on where you are with skill. If you are at a level where you just need to start practicing doubles of that, start now. If you are at a level where you need to push your threshold of moving sets within a metcon, let's do more of that in the metcon. Let's say go for bigger sets when you're doing metcons just to push that threshold and focus on that right now. Because if you're consistently making it to quarterfinals, fitness is not your problem.
Not at that stage, no.
No,
If you're just trying to maximize your performance in quarterfinals, no. You're
right.
probably fit enough to do most of the stuff, right?
You just need to do it with a higher capacity
Yep. Especially with
under
gymnastics.
higher fatigue.
Yep.
So that'll be my recommendation for most people getting into quarterfinals. Don't overthink the open. Um, get or continue to get stronger and move the heavier percentages more often, and work on increasing your capacity of higher complexity gymnastics under fatigue.
Yeah, we've seen that. I mean, the kind of dense gymnastic sets or the large gymnastic sets that people have to chip through under various amounts of fatigue, similar fatigue, kind of an overload, like the last quarterfinals workout from last year, finishing on those rope climbs after a bunch of pulling prior, right? Like we know that's something that Bosman seems to enjoy testing and is a good test of capacity in those movements. Um, even the first quarterfinals workout with the handstand walk, gymnastics, the muscle ups, and then the wall facing, like no, the muscle ups weren't a pure pressing movement, but they fatigued your press for the wall facing handstand push-ups. And
But
if you were limited on your ability to handstand walk, it made the muscle ups even harder, right?
and besides that, they also put a stipulation of 25 foot in a row.
Right.
Otherwise, you're stuck there. And how many people did we see get to like 20 foot and fall?
Guys. If you're trying to do well in quarterfinals, you've got to be able to walk 25 feet on your hands unbroken in a metcon.
Just
I
as
don't
well,
I don't
just as
make the
well as
rules.
just as well as other smaller distances, but 25 foot should be a stipulation. I should
Yes.
be able to get there no problem for multiple attempts.
Yes. Like I don't make the rules. That's just what it is. But you got to be able to do it. It just is what it is. Um, yeah, I think the gymnastics is going to continue to have a premium while Boz is at the helm. Obviously, Dave's back in the fold, um, this year, but I don't think we're going to see a huge deviation, especially because a lot of people don't realize this, but I believe Bosman programmed the first year of quarterfinals workouts, and everybody thought it was Dave. But I've heard on a couple podcasts and things like that. So, even the pistol GHD rope climb that had a lot of volume. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, Dave has so much volume and Boz doesn't." Well, apparently he does when he wants to, right?
Also, just a public service announcement. If you have been keeping pistols in your back closet, bring them out,
Yeah, start doing pistols.
freshen them
So
out.
yes, all of you athletes that I coach who might watch this, we're gonna start doing pistols more. I also have absolutely no shame in saying I don't program pistols all year round. Because I think they're a terrible movement for people's longevity
For
and
intensity,
health.
under intensity.
Yeah, if I think it's great if somebody has the mobility and anthropometry to allow them to do a pistol.
Right. Or it's great to build up two pistols and use them as a strength training.
Sure.
I don't like them
Um,
in a Metcon
no, I think they're
or
terrible.
or in high volume in general.
Agreed. Um, okay. I think the only thing we have left to discuss in terms of the nuts and bolts on the fitness end of that is the actual fitness. Um, if you're looking to do well in quarterfinals, you need to be getting nasty fit right now. With even those athletes who maybe squeezed into semis last year, they chopped 20 spots and they added 15% of people, and it's not to bring up the whole video review conundrum, but basically there's a lot. If you don't take quarterfinals seriously, even if you went to semifinals last year, maybe even the year prior to that as well, and you're like, I'm just going to coast quarters, and then you come into quarters and you get 27th, and then you get a penalty, you're out. If you get a major penalty,
Hmm.
you're gone. So
Yeah.
you need to be fit, because sometimes people get penalties that are not fair. So there have been people who have been penalized for their workouts that they did hold the standard, even though there are tons of fucking turds who don't hold the standard and don't get penalized. It's an imperfect system. I don't want to talk about the video review shit right now.
Would you also like specify a modality of fitness, or would you say if people are trying to make it semifinals, they need to work on their long endurance or long conditioning, short conditioning?
Um, yes. So I'll give people my thoughts, and then if they want to know how to do that, then they can come work with a Send Athlete. Um, you need to be very aerobically fit for the mid-range time domain of probably 14 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, you need to have built your anaerobic power output up in a mixed modal setting.
Hmm.
You need to be able to do something heavy and fast aggressively under fatigue, and you need to be able to deal with a lot of lactate in your legs. And if you're an Ascend athlete and you're listening to this, we are in the middle of the first week of our new cycle, and we're already working on all three of those things. So, not going to go into it any further than that because the way I structure those things is actually one of the smarter things I think I've ever done, and I'm not going to tell people how I do it. But
I guess, like, in a more general way of speaking, if you're trying to make it to semifinals, no modality is unnecessary right now.
no, you need to have exposure to everything.
Yeah.
You need to be ready to do something 20 minutes plus. You need to be ready to do something 3 minutes and under.
And you need
Right.
to be able to run 800 fresh and get a PR. You need to run 800 meters after snatching for however many times
Yep.
and still not get last.
Yep. So the last couple of things I want to end with on here are not necessarily nuts and bolts fitness, but this is a good kind of segue. Something else athletes likely need to be prepared for if they're looking to do well in quarterfinals and truly get a good look at their best potential or make semifinals. Better buckle up for the fucking redos, kids.
Quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals, yeah. Is that what I meant? What'd I say?
Redo of quarterfinals, not at the Open.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Don't redo the Open, please.
Yeah.
With the extended time window, I know they said, oh, this will be better for the affiliates because we can do more people. But all that means to competitors is I have time to redo workouts. And people will redo workouts. And if you're on the bubble trying to go to semifinals, obviously there will be some workouts that are not redoable from a volume perspective or the time windows, or you really do maximize your potential the first time and execute perfectly. But athletes probably need to be ready to redo 3 of the 5 tests. So you need to be prepared from that from a mental standpoint. So just wrap your fucking head around it now. And you need to be prepared from a volume tolerance standpoint, which fucking sucks. And I'm sorry because now we have to prepare you for that. But it is what it is. The second thing that I would say people need to prepare for, and it's a good thing to start doing, is videos.
Yeah.
Start videoing your metcons. Start playing. If you haven't been doing all the movements with the standard from last year all year, you're silly. But now is definitely the time. Have the wall walk tape out, have the handstand push up standard out. Make sure you're doing those things now and practice getting some video in your affiliate of you doing it to the standard. Can I see the top of my rope from where my camera's at? Can I see this? Can I see that? Um, you know, Again, not that I want to go into the review process thing. CrossFit doesn't do a wonderful job of reviewing. They've said they're not going to do a thorough job of reviewing. It just kind of is what it is. But I don't want any athlete that listens to us or follows Ascend Athlete to be the one who has a bad video and gets taken down.
Right.
Caveat with this, because it makes me want to fucking
Mm-hmm.
clear storage on your phones. Athletes.
That also should be closer to the season or videoing because don't fill it up till then.
I don't care if you have pictures of your
Nah,
freaking
nah,
third
calm
grade
down.
high school reunion. Like, I dealt with
Just
just clear storage on your phones.
prepare yourselves for storage wise.
Because nothing makes your coach want to kill you more than when your freaking phone stops recording mid quarterfinals workout because you ran out of storage.
On the same note, make sure your phones are charged before you work out
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like all this goes without saying, but
and put it on airplane mode and don't have anybody call you.
and have a backup camera. But
It's a touchy subject for him. Sorry.
y'all do not understand. I'm not gonna say anybody's name in particular, but they're
I'm sure they got it by now.
well. I don't even know if they watch this, but for the yeah.
Let's keep it anonymous.
Anyways, um, there was one more thing that I wanted to say that was a little bit more the nuts and bolts stuff. Oh, recovery.
Mhm.
If you're one of those athletes who finishes a Metcon, and I'll call myself out because this is 100% me. I'm not a serious competitor anymore, so I can do what I want. If you're one of those athletes who finishes a Metcon, lays on the ground for a second, and then just walks off and starts talking to people, and you're taking quarterfinals seriously, you need to start working on your cooldown. You need to get on the bike. You need to get on a cyclical machine. You need to go for a walk. You need to cool down, get your heart rate down, get the blood out of whatever muscle groups you just used, and start making that part of your routine and rhythm, because the recovery across the weekend is going to matter, especially with redos, as I already said. And you definitely want to take that stuff seriously. Also, your stretching and your mobility and your sleep and your food. Again, we don't talk about this stuff a lot of the time because I
It
feel
goes
like if
without
you're,
saying.
yeah, it goes without saying. Like if you're an athlete and you're like, I want to go to semifinals, but I eat Chick-fil-A 4 times a day, then like I don't really know what to tell you. Like I feel like it's kind of obvious you need to fix that. But definitely spend some time dialing those things in over the next couple of weeks with a coach or somebody that knows what they're talking about and trusts, that you trust. Um, Anything else on that kind of similar vein that I didn't bring up? I'm still in the back of my head fired up about the fucking phone storage thing. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I think you've covered it all. But yeah, I would just say for those who don't really care about all of that, please try to enjoy your fitness and have a great time in the open.
Everybody, none of y'all are getting paid.
I did not see that coming. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake up the monster.
Fucking yeah, like unless you are a sponsored athlete. I understand that the dream of, trust me, I understand way better than most people the goal of going to semifinals and not making it and putting everything you had into that. But you have got to keep a level head and understand that this is not how you make your living. This is not who you are. Like, give it your best effort, but you need to enjoy it, right? You can do both. You can have a high standard, you can have goals, but you can also remember that you have a job, you are a professional in something else, you have a 9 to 5, you have kids, whatever, and hold those two things at the same time, right? So, yeah, nobody needs to go into depression over their quarterfinals placement. If you are not a sponsored athlete who is, this is how you make your livelihood, this is what you do, right? Those athletes have a little bit more expectation and higher standard because this is how they support their family, their livelihood, and all the things they do, right? And if you're trying to get to that level, that's okay, but you still need to understand the place that you're at right now.
Yeah.
So,
Learn
yes,
from whatever mistakes you make and don't miss out on enjoying that experience.
yeah, exactly. Enjoy
Because
quarterfinals.
because that's what's gonna motivate you to get better next year, if that's the case. If you did not enjoy that experience, then why would you try it again?
100%. All right. We'll wrap this bad boy up. Ascend Athlete on Fitter, Ascend Athlete on Instagram. We just started our open quarters prep cycle. If you want to be more prepared than you have ever been for the open and quarterfinals, head over there. You can find our application for one-on-one coaching. You can find our compete and train blog programs, best programming out there, bar none. I would love to debate somebody who thinks otherwise. Um, Follow us on Instagram, like I said. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, would like a larger conversation about anything, shoot Mr. Mahmoud or myself a DM on Instagram at our handles above. We've got some super sweet swag in the works as well. Some hats going to be put out soon. And last but not least, I guess we should preview this as well. I will be at Wadapalooza. I will be at Fittest of the Coast. And then the Ascend Army will be at the Fittest Experience. So we have over 30 qualifying athletes for the Fittest Experience out in Austin at the end of the month. I will be there. Mahmoud will be there. Most of our staff will be there. Most of our athletes will be there. It'll be a good time. So we'll be out there kind of in mass. Come say hi, chat us up. If you see me at Wadapalooza or Fittest of the Coast as well, chat me up. I love to talk and meet people and talk shop and, the fitness stuff. Man, that
Can
might be
you,
the best wrap up I ever did. What I miss?
while you're at it, can you give a shout out to who's competing in Wadapalooza and Fittest of the Coast?
Oh, yes, sir. So we have Miss Kelly B is on a Wadapalooza team with Kelsey Keels and her very, very nice teammate who was on her team last year that I cannot remember her name. And I also have read her name and know that I can't pronounce it.
Okay, let's
So,
go with pronounce it.
yeah. I think it's a double whammy. I'm just going to be honest. Like, it's so hard to pronounce. She's from Europe. She's from Sweden. And I'm just not that good with names. So, and then we have Wyatt and Madison are both on other teams as well. And then we have a team from kind of a satellite affiliate that works with us from Carrie's Gym. The boys from Man-Made, Justin and Chase and those guys.
So is it
They're gonna crush.
Justin Krauts and Chase Campbell?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you said Kelly Baker, Madison McElhaney,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
Wyatt
Wyatt Woods.
Woods.
Yep. And then Fittest of the Coast, we've got the Ascend East Coast division, basically. Justin Riddlebach, AJ Nicely, and Melissa Hoof. They're out there. Justin and AJ are on a team, and then Melissa's on a team in the pro division. So they're all repping the pro division out there. And I'm not going to try to name everybody going to TFX because it would take another 20 minutes.
Let's keep that till the week of.
Yeah. Well, if people are curious, they can go to our Instagram, and
Sure.
we announced most of those people already. But
Mm-hmm.
all right, my man. Anything
All right.
else?
Nope. Be on the lookout for some hats and some cool swag. And
Yep.
we'll see you guys soon.
Cool. All right, brother.